Matt, Timey, why don't you just have a seat over there? Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus throwing a shout-out to Captured Prey for lending me a pre-production copy of Fans Toys' first standalone figure release, Quakewave. Apparently this guy is subject to change, being a pre-production piece, but I don't really see much that needs tweaking. Let's start off by taking a look at his bipedal form. This purple galactic man homage also looks a lot like the classic visage of G1 Shockwave from the Transformers. Nearly every part of his body is a close homage to the core design elements of the Master of Logic, taking nearly all of its creative liberties in the shins and feet. The purple hue is much more in line with the Shockwave of cartoons and comic books rather than the original toy, though it's not slavish in either direction, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. Also, there's a lot of surface detail sculpting, which helps things feel a bit more polished. The head and chest are fantastic, really nailing the parts that matter most to me. His shins and feet are a lot more boxy and square than Shockwave's were in most media, though that is very much due to how they transform. I don't see how much more curvature could have been added without messing with the profile of the alternate mode, and I'm quite fine with this chunkier grounding for his stance, but those seeking sleek, swooping leg curves may be a little disappointed. Quakewave's homage also gives him a hose running from his gun arm to his backpack. This actually has a wire inside, but it's not connected to anything. The wire's there mostly to give the hose some internal structure and prevent it from folding and cracking too easily. It does plug into the top of his forearm, and though you can simply swivel it to run under his arm rather than over his shoulder as I've done here, Fans Toys has stated that they plan to include an alternate plug under the forearm with their next release. Another point of contention in the pre-release discussions of Quakewave are his translucent hands. This is based on the G1 toy, and led some to request the opaque right hand of Quakewave's preliminary photography. Fans Toys responded by providing opaque versions of the fingered and cannon hands as a $2 add-on item that'll ship with the second run of Quakewave. Quakewave's got a pair of LED circuits, one contained in his head and one contained in his cannon forearm. Due to the pre-production nature of the piece that Captured Prey lent me, this cannon forearm isn't functional, so I'll take a closer look at it once I've got my own copy. If you pick this guy up, it'll flare up with a red LED. However, the yellow LED in Quakewave's head is something I can share, and it is friggin' bright! This is the only light that really matters to me on a purple one-eyed evil robot. The way that both circuits are contained also means that regular posing won't put their wiring at any risk, so you can have Quakewave tilt his head quizzically as he's leaving spots in your eyes, and stepping up on 3A's Metal Gear Rex's territory. The batteries are Model 1025 3V lithium button cells, which Captured Prey will be including when they ship out the toy. The head is meant to take Model 1020s, but they're way harder to find and only offer a slightly less tight fit. Logic, posing, ball joints, does this guy have one? Yes, he does. It's on his neck, so he can turn his head around like this. He can't really tilt it from side to side, but he can look up and down a little bit, mostly up. But hey, anything helps, right? Any other ball joints on this dude? Well, his wrist has one, but it doesn't offer a whole lot of wiggle. It's mostly a swivel. Going on to his shoulders, this is the start of a beautiful thing with Quakewave, and that is noises like this. Aren't you impressed? Because I totally used the wrong joint. Noises like this. Just have a listen to this. It rings! So that is a heavy, chunky, clicky, Chogokin tank-like joint, and that's not the only one that's in this dude. Moving on to his elbows, they are double-jointed, so they work. His hand has got fingers, a very interesting setup of fingers. His arm, by the way, is identical, but has no hand. So, what do you want to know? The cannon poses just like a cannon, as in, it's phallic. So his fingers have a set of individual mid-knuckle joints. Every finger is individually jointed on the mid-knuckle. As for the base of the knuckle, his index finger does have an individual joint. His middle finger has an individual joint. His ring finger has an individual joint, but the pinky is fused to it. So this dude's able to do weird little gestures, peace signs, flip-offs, and pointing. His thumb is on a ball joint, and it only has the ball joint. But it's still helpful for doing fists or assisting with gesticulations and postulations on logic and meaning and logic. His waist can swivel. That's nice. He does have a bit of a tight clearance back here. The setup of this cylinder and this backpack are fine if everything's transformed right, but it's really easy to have this cylinder not quite rotated down enough, so it's sticking up by like a millimeter, and this will start crashing into it. All you have to do is make sure this entire cylinder, not just the gun sight, has been rotated all the way down as far as it goes. His hips have got skirts that get out of the way, and once again, oh, that's delicious. The outward motion doesn't have it, but it's still just smooth, silky tight. There's a thigh swivel. There is another one of these. Oh, detense. And then there's a swivel underneath the knee if you just want this part to move, or if you want his thigh to swivel independently in some kind of weird alien mating gesture. His feet have got a lot of weight to them, so I'm not going to hold them up very high. They've got all this die-cast, this, and then this solid die-cast. I believe it is coated, it feels coated, so there shouldn't be a worry of the quote-unquote cosmic rust oxidization that happened on Masterpiece Megatron. His ankles have got a slight tilt, just enough for him to have a good A stance or a couple of vaguely dynamic poses with his legs. There's also a devoted forward tilt for the foot, so you can have some crouching or walking poses. Similarly, his feet, mostly due to the transformation, are able to move up and down. His heels can pivot inwards a little bit, which is entirely useless, but this isn't. So, this dude has got a lot of posing possibilities. Again, his die-cast gives him an enormously strong base to just plonk down on, but I just want one pose out of my G1 Shockwave. That's the hips clicked back once, heels together, and leaning slightly forward. And this guy is totally able to do that. I'm satisfied. Logically speaking, logic dictates that this posability section's gone on for like 4 minutes. Let's move on. Quakewave transforms a lot like the G1 Shockwave toy from the waist up, adding a masterpiece bent to hide his head, fold away his right hand, and compress his midriff. The big engineering win comes in how his legs very cleverly transform into both the handle and rear block of the body, eliminating the need for the G1 toy's battery backpack. The one part of his process that I don't enjoy is the compression of the legs. I really wish there was a button release of some sort, as Quakewave simply demands a huge push or powerful pull to slide his thighs in or out of his shins. It's kinda scary, and if you catch a finger in there when it happens, it will hurt. After swiveling the crosshair mount and plugging in the quote-unquote trigger, Quakewave's backpack disengages and literally turns inside out to form the barrel of the gun. Yes, this is parts forming, but I think it's very smart, in that it takes the G1 toy's one erroneous part and smoothly integrates its storage into the robot mode. It is a bit tricky to plug in as it's wrapping around only Quakewave's cannon hand. I'd recommend doing all this before you slide that hand into its central position, so you can brace pressure against the cuff of his left sleeve. Quakewave's Astro Magnum form is pretty spot on. The barrel's threatening, the body is a sleek and rectangular space gun, and the payoff of the chunkier shins in robot mode are the squared-off butt and slim, comfy handle. Thanks to the diecast, there's a lovely central weight when holding onto the gun. There is no trigger, and while you can fake one by folding down the underside's clips, it just doesn't feel right to me. However, if avoiding a trigger led to the cleanliness of both modes, I'm all for it. Quakewave can only really prop up like an anti-air cannon when left on his own in this mode. Some kind of stand would have topped it off perfectly. Fans Toys have finally gotten their first figure out, and it's a fantastic debut effort. After an add-on MPO1 trailer a long time ago, Fans Toys have twice almost released some interesting-looking designs. There's a strangely bittersweet warmth in the fact that Quakewave looks so good next to Masterpiece Soundwave, when Fans Toys' own MP-size take on the villainous cassette bot was going to be their standalone figure debut last year. They have definitely hit it out of the park in terms of build quality. Quakewave's core joints feel as solid as a tank. While there's nothing mind-blowing in terms of paintwork or engineering, his basic qualities are satisfied and then some. He reminds me of Fans Project's Steel Core, a third-party transforming toy with a strength of simplicity. While the vocal Masterpiece Collector crowd can pick a lot of nits in terms of subtle sculpting decisions or color hues, the essence of Quakewave as a toy has hardcore nailed it. I am impressed and will definitely watch what else Fans Toys puts out in future. Anyway, this has been internet personality Vangelus. I've got to get this thing back to Captured Prey, because they're going to be doing a charity raffle for a pre-production Quakewave pretty soon. Keep an eye on their social medias for more info. I should hide a note in him somewhere for the winner.